This is where it ends, here in Scotland, where my heart has always been, the place where my father left this world, and now, I suppose, where I shall leave it too. Her hands, wrinkled but still steady, rest on a letter, a final correspondence unfinished. The ink has dried, but the words remain. 70 years, 7 decades of service, duty, tradition, but how quickly it all passes in the end. The window fogs slightly with the breath of the cold air. She watches the landscape, the same hills she rode through as a child, the same castle where she played with Margaret, the same walls that watched her become queen. I was never meant to reign this long, but time does not ask permission. A whisper in the air, distant, echoing, a voice from the past. Lilibet, are you ready? The words come from another time, another world. I hear them now, the voices of the past, my father, my mother, Philip. She closes her eyes, and suddenly we are not in Balmoral anymore. We are in Westminster Abbey, 1953, the moment the crown touched her head. I was never meant to be queen, not at first, but fate has little patience for plans. Edward's crown is placed upon her head. The weight is immediate, crushing, final. Will you solemnly promise and swear to govern the peoples of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth? A pause. The young queen breathes in, steadying herself. Elizabeth, I solemnly promise. The words echo, drifting forward in time, to Balmoral, where an older Elizabeth sits in silence. The weight of the crown has long since faded, but the weight of her promise never did. I made a vow that day, to serve, to dedicate my life, however long or short, to the people, and serve I did. A shift. We move back further, before she was queen, before the crown, a world at war, the young princess, just a girl in uniform, learning what it means to lead. The voice is steady, but her hands are clasped tightly in her lap. Outside, the city is in ruins. She is not a queen yet, but she is already leading. I was just a girl, watching the world fall apart. My father, the king, stayed in Buckingham Palace, even as bombs fell. My mother told me, Elizabeth, we must stay strong. And so I did. A shift, Elizabeth, now 18, in uniform, learning to drive a military ambulance. The future queen covered in grease, fixing an engine. She laughs, for once just a young woman, before the weight of a throne changes her forever. Those days, I was not a princess, not a monarch, just a soldier like so many others. But even then, history was waiting for her, and when her father dies, she has no choice but to answer. I was in Kenya when I became queen. One moment, I was a princess, watching the elephants roam under the African sun, and then one telegram changed everything. A young Elizabeth, 25, is seen standing in silence. Her father, King George VI, is gone. And just like that, the weight of the crown is hers. I never said goodbye. One day he was there, the next he was not. That is the way of kings and of fathers. The moment you wear the crown, you are never truly alone, but you are never truly free either. But amidst the sorrow, there was one constant, Philip, the man who stood beside her for over 70 years. Philip was my rock, my strength, my always. Philip at her side during the coronation. Philip whispering something that makes her laugh. Philip decades later walking beside her, older now, but still hers. For 74 years, he walked beside me, through war, through scandal, through loss. A shift, 2021, Windsor Castle. The Queen, now 95, sits alone at Philip's funeral. A single mask covers her face, but the grief is unmistakable. And then, one day, he was gone. The silence stretches. The last great love story of the monarchy ends. And now Elizabeth stands at the twilight of her own reign. 70 years, the longest reign in British history. I saw 14 prime ministers come and go, the fall of an empire, the rise of a new world. Churchill, Thatcher, Blair, Brexit, the world turning faster and faster. I was not perfect. I made mistakes. I endured scandal. 1997, Princess Diana's funeral. Crowds mourning. The Queen stoic, her silence echoing louder than words. I learned that even a queen must change. And change she did, but time spares no one, not even monarchs. I have seen the world change beyond recognition, and yet here I stand, the last queen of an age long gone. The second Elizabethan age will end, as all ages do. The crown will pass, the world will move on. And yet even now she remains, until the very end. I have done my duty, I have given my life, and now I shall rest. I remain, Your Majesty. The words linger, and then she is gone.